Today we're going to put together probably my favorite piece from the all-new baby bundle. It's a paper sculpture that would work great for a newborn or even a small child. It features, and you can take a look here, features a cute little bunny and a little teddy bear with stitches. And this is just like all of our other paper sculptures, and very simple to put together. We're basically just kind of scrapbooking, if you will, with some 3D flower elements. And I'm just gonna go over all the pieces real quick, and then we'll start putting it all together. What I did when I put this together was just kind of got all the pieces together, did all my inking, and I'll show you a little bit of that here in a second. But I wanna find this piece here, okay, and then this piece here. All the well, in my case, the gray pieces are for my bunny. We've got two little pieces for the ears, and then these three pieces make up the mouth and the nose. Okay, so get all those together. And then for our little bear, we've got his little ears. It's these two pieces here. We've got these three pieces for his mouth, and then the actual bear himself, and then another layer for his face. And then we've got some little buttons that are gonna go on his little hands. Okay, so we can kind of just start with our little bear here. One thing that I did on this guy here, did some inking. I did a nice little lavender color on the body. I used my little felt pad, and for the bear, I used like a dark orange. This is called Potter's Clay. And just took my little Ranger felt applicator, and just wanted to show you kind of just quickly the little technique that I used here, and just simply just taking and inking the edges, not applying too much pressure, just a little bit. And I already pre-inked all this to kind of save time, but I just wanted to show you. And this part here, the ears need to be inked. I just inked the whole thing just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. There are going to be pieces where you have an overlap and you may not see it, so you can omit those if you want, but I think it's a good idea just to ink the whole thing just to get some practice and to make it more consistent. But anyway, it's pretty much it. As far as inking goes on this entire project, anywhere there's ink, that's all I did. I've got my Memento inks here, used various colors to kind of bring out the colors of the paper, and just ever so gently just kind of brush the edges while skimming the surface just slightly, just to leave a little bit of that ink on the surface. And that also gives me a nice crisp look on the edge as well. And that just adds a lot of dimension to the product. Okay, so aside from the inking, again, we've got our pieces for our bear here. We already went through those, so I'm gonna put that off to the side for a second. We've got our bunny. Now let's take a look at the other pieces here. There's a bow that goes in the upper right-hand corner. So you wanna look for these shapes for our bow. I took this and I inked the edges with the turquoise. I also ran this through an embossing folder, or through an embosser. Okay, so those are your bow pieces. Put those off to the side. There are two flowers, or well, two sets of flowers, I should say. We've got the leaves. I inked that with the turquoise as well. And each of these sets of flowers are gonna feature this little guy here and these two flowers. So you're gonna have two sets of these. I have my other set over here. So two sets of those. We're gonna assemble that in just a second. And we have some little tiny butterflies that we're gonna put on the cutout on the back. Well, these are the butterfly bodies. The butterflies actually get cut out of one of the main pieces in the back. So that's kind of how I have everything organized, and that is where we're going to start. So I'm going to start with my main 12 by 12 sheet. Okay, so you're gonna choose one main 12 by 12 sheet as your canvas, so to speak. Okay, this is gonna be my canvas. Now, you'll find two of these in your cutouts, and these are little little pieces here that are going to help you with the placement of the next piece. Okay, so what I've done, and you can't see this right now, but there you go. I put this up flush against the edge of one corner, okay? And what we're gonna do, and you probably wanna use a pencil for this, is just kind of mark the corner of that, because that is gonna help us with the placement of the next piece. Okay, so you see I just drew a little notch there, because this piece is gonna go right up in there, like so, okay? And you can do the same thing on the bottom here. So get that lined up with the edge, with the corner. Make sure that it's nice and straight. And just make a little notch there. Don't want to make it too visible. Okay, so then we're going to grab our next piece. In my case, I have this white piece with hearts on it, and you'll notice that there are some butterflies cut out of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull these wings out, okay, because we want them to be dimensional. So just give them a quick fold so that they're popping out, like so. There should be 3 of them. Okay, just like that. And we're going to glue this down to our main canvas piece here. If you want to use a spray glue, a spray adhesive, you're welcome to do that. I am going to just use regular glue because I have to film this and I really don't want to be breathing that glue because it gives me headaches. I'll be honest with you. You're supposed to use it outdoors or maybe with like a gas mask or something on, and I would prefer not to do that. So I'm just gonna use glue. So we're gonna get this glued down, and it's a pretty large sheet, which is why I think spray adhesive would come in handy. But I'm not overly concerned about getting glue in every little section here. I think the perimeter is probably the most important, and as long as we get the perimeter down, if we just add a little bit of glue here and there on the inside, it should hold for us nicely. And I think less is probably better in this case because then we don't have to worry about warping and stuff like that. So just make sure that you've got it lined up with those little guides, and if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. And just smooth that out. Make sure that it's nice and flush against your canvas piece. Okay, that looks great. All right, now while we're here, we can get our little butterfly bodies out and get those glued into place. There's one larger one and 2 smaller ones. Let's see, yep. We're just gonna get those glued into right in between the little wings there. So grab your glue, pop a little bit of glue on the back of the body, and just get that positioned right in the center there. Okay, and then you can kind of flap the wings up a little bit more. And we can always adjust that a little more later on too, once we have this project mostly assembled. Okay. Just like that. And last but not least, our third little butterfly. I think this one's gonna be a hit because we using a little bit of vinyl, we're gonna put a girl's name on it, and it'll just make a good gift for, oh, a boy or a girl actually. It's pretty unisex, I would say. Okay, all right, so that's step 1. Got that all in place. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put down the main body of our little bunny here. And you'll notice that there's a series of score lines cut into this piece here that are gonna help you with the alignment. There's one specifically just below this butterfly that is kind of like a 90-degree angle shape, and that is where the tip of the ear is gonna go. And then there's 2 here that show you where to position the ear, and then the rest of it should pretty much fall into place with the remainder of the score marks. There's a couple down here that show you where his little hand goes, and there's another one here. It's an acute angle that shows you where that little angle goes. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I would use this little mark here just below that butterfly as your first guide. And don't worry about, you don't have to glue this part here because we want his little ear to be kind of flapped over. So get your glue on your bunny. And let's get him positioned and in place. Again, I'm gonna tilt this a little bit. I'm just gonna start by getting that in place and holding it in place, and then kind of just using that as my axis, and then laying the rest of this in place following the rest of the score lines there. Okay, so that's perfect right there. If it's a tad off, it's not gonna make a huge difference, but definitely try your best to get it in the correct spot. Now, while he's here, let's grab his little ears and let's get his ears glued down. Okay, now let's grab the rest of the bunny parts and just have them nearby. So the black layer is going to be all the way in the back. Then we're going to put the patterned layer in between. We're going to sandwich the pattern layer in between the white and the black. Okay, so we're going to end up with a shape like this for his face. And you may need to just kind of, you may need to rotate the black piece to make sure that everything fits nicely. And that looks good. So I'm going to take the pattern piece and glue that down to the black piece. Okay, just like that. And then take the white piece and glue it on top of those two pieces. There we go. That looks good. All right, now, while we have this out, there are actually some stitches cut into the little animals as well as the bow. Okay, and what I did was I took a pencil and I just drew over those stitches like so. And it's optional, but it gives it a really cute look, almost like they're, you know, like stuffed animals. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take and actually, well, we can actually glue this, we can glue this on here. And you want to line this up so that it's nice and centered and just kind of below where the stitches end, okay? So leave just a little bit of room where the stitches terminate, but glue it down right about there. So we'll get our glue on the back of this guy here and get that positioned like so. And you can use this little black part of the mouth, make sure that that line is going straight up where those stitches are to make sure that his face looks nice and symmetrical. Okay, so that looks good. And then also, what we can do is draw some little eyes on him. Again, using the little lines there as your guide, I would just use that bottommost score mark there. I'd go just right around that area and just draw some little circles for his eyes. And you could fill that in. Make them as big or as small as you'd like. That looks cute. And then again, just try to keep it equidistant and draw his other eye. And then give him a little eyebrow there. Okay, So we're gonna take this piece here and I'm gonna grab my foam squares and we're gonna foam square him onto this piece here. We're kind of just working our way up as far as the layers go. We're going top to, or bottom to top, which makes sense. Okay, I think 3 will probably do the trick here. And I can't remember if these are, you know, they're coming off a little bit better than usual. I think I'm squeezing them. There we go, that came off nice. And just line that up so that it matches the existing cutout there. Try to place it as accurately as you can. There we go, okay. So there is the first part of our bunny. And now at this point we can begin working on the main layers of this. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We can actually put his ears on too. Let's do that. I'm gonna grab the full ear and get that glued into place. Okay. I'm gonna flip this around so I can see it better. And just get it nice and centered there. Like so. And then we have this where you have that sharp cut, that's gonna go towards the top of his ear. That's where the ear folds over. Okay. And to keep his ear down, you can use a little foam square, a little pop dot, whatever it is you want to use to kind of make his ear stay down. I think I probably just get away with a little pop dot and kind of just pop it right there and just pop that down like so. Okay, so there's our bunny, and he still has a hand, but the hand is going to be hanging over the next layer, so we're going to put that off to the side for now. Okay, next, all right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue 3 layers together. Okay, and we have this layer here with the giant heart cut into it with the 4 hearts on top. That is going to go on top of this layer. Okay, that has the difference between these layers. This top layer has the biggest heart cut out of it. Okay, then this next layer has the next largest heart cut out of it, and then this one has, and this one just has less detail in it. This one has a little bit more detail. So less detail, more detail, largest heart. I think that's kind of a good way to look at it. And we're just going to glue these all together flat. Okay, there's no pop dotting, none of that. It's just going on flat, and that's that. So again, if you are comfortable with spray glue and you have some good circulation, by all means, go with the spray glue. I am going to just use glue and do my best to get my glue in all these areas here. I wouldn't worry about trying to get it into every little nook and cranny. That's going to be impossible because this glue is going to set really quick. But do your best to get into as many areas as possible, and then just get that lined up. I'm kind of using the heart in the center as my guide. Oops. And then we're going to take this, and the next piece that we're going to apply to this is going to be this piece here. So let's get our glue on this piece. I'm going to put this down on my table. And you got to kind of work quick. That's why the spray glue, if you're going to use spray glue, use the repositionable stuff, because sometimes working with these large pieces can be a little challenging. Oops. Right as I say that. Okay, and again, I'm using the top 2 hearts or the top 4 hearts as my kind of guide there to make sure that I'm getting it in place correctly. And there we go. Okay, so that worked out nicely. And if you do have any little pieces of this on the edge coming up, I can always use my little trick to add a little bit of glue into some of the areas, because again, it's a very large piece, and it's, you know, can be challenging to get it all glued down in one fell swoop. So I'm using this little guide piece as my little scrap. Just putting a little bit of glue on this and kind of thinning it out so it's not too thick. I know this little area here, I'm gonna lift it up and just throw a little bit of extra glue under this, because I feel like in that area there, I didn't get enough and it's kind of peeling back. So I'm just gonna clean that up a little bit with a little extra TLC. Okay, but you get the idea, and that is what it should look like when it's all done. Okay, so next step is gonna be taking this, and we're going to use some foam squares, and I'm actually going to foam square this 2 layers up. Okay, because our bunny is 1 layer up, so we're gonna go 2 layers up. So first thing I'm gonna do is just get my foam squares into the corners here. Just make sure that I have enough. Okay, so we'll start at the corners. And then of course, I'm gonna actually, instead of going in the middle, I'm gonna go here and here. And then I'm gonna bring this one in a little bit. And I'm gonna bring this one in here. Bring this one there. And here. Okay, now this little test that I do is I flip it over and then I just kind of push down in certain areas and see where I have the most resistance, or not resistance, most give. And any area that kind of gives a lot, I know probably needs a little extra love. So like these areas here, I'm gonna put one here. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So we're gonna pop these off, and we need to put another layer on top of that. So we need to make it 2 layers deep. Okay, if you have smaller foam squares, that's fine. You may need to just use a few extra ones to really give this thing the support that it needs. But you may be able to get away with not having to use that many. I guess it didn't really test it out using various sizes. Just had these handy and we're going with it because, you know, like I said, they have more surface area and I don't need as many. But I'm sure that the smaller, I think they're the, I think these are the 1/2-inch ones. Or maybe these, yeah, these are the 1/2-inch ones. The 1/4-inch ones, I have some of those, and I may actually need to use those too if I run out of the ones that I'm using here, because I think I'm gonna be short. Okay, so we've got those in place. I'm just gonna put 1 more layer on top of each of these, and they don't need to be stacked perfectly. Just as long as you're like 80% accurate, it'll work just fine. And no one's gonna see this, so if it's not like meticulous, I'm not overly worried about it. Just want to make sure that this thing has good support and that it withstands the test of time. And I am 1, 2, 3, 4 short. So I need to improvise and use my 1/4-inch ones. Let me see if I have any circular ones. I have 1 circular one left. And I'm just gonna pop that one here. And then, so that is, I need some more of these guys. And let's get my 1/4-inch ones out. And let's just put a 1/4-inch one on there. It'll work just fine. It's the same thickness, it's just, it doesn't have as much surface area, but I think this thing's got enough support already. So we'll peel off the backing on this little guy here. It looks like I've got a trip to Joanne in my future. That's always fun. Has you know, it's funny. You start to see fall stuff already, I think, right around this time of the year, right? I think in July they start to put out the fall stuff. So as much as I feel like winter took forever, I can never be sad about the coming of fall. And secretly, I think I like to be cold more than I like to be hot. Okay, so we're just peeling this off and getting it ready to be applied to our next layer here, or our first layer, I should say. All right, I think I got them all off now. All right, so let's grab this and get this ready. And we're literally going to lay this on top of so that it matches up with my white piece here. Okay, so it should be literally sitting right on top of it, and try to get it as perfect as you can. I'm gonna actually stand up and do this so that I don't mess it up. Okay, and just lay this right on there so that it matches up with the rest of the project. And I think I got it. There we go. Okay, so that's done, and we're kind of at the fun part now. All we're doing at this point is assembling some flowers and doing some layering. So we may as well finish off our little bunny, and his little hand is going to go right there. So we need a little foam square to put on the back of his hand. Okay, and we'll get that off. And just lay that right on top where his hand is, just like that. Okay, so he's kind of poking out. That's really cute. All right, and now we can take a look at our little bear. So let's grab this piece here, and he's gonna go here, but we're gonna actually pop dot him as well. So grab your foam squares or your pop dots, whatever it is that you intend on using to give this project dimension. And let's just cover him up in our little foam squares or our pop dots, and let's get him in place. You want to put these all over him. Let me move this over so you can see what I'm doing. We'll put one here and put one here as well, and just peel off the tops. I still cringe when I do this because one of our dreamers said she cringed when she saw me using an X-Acto knife to pull this off. So your comments really do stick with me, guys. And I'm sorry if I'm making you cringe. At least I'm not drinking, so my coordination's really good, and I promise I won't stab myself. And if I do, I would edit it out so that you guys wouldn't have to see blood during my videos, which I'm sure you probably don't want to see anyway. Okay, so we're going to lay this right over in my case, the purple piece that you can see where the arms kind of protrude. Okay, and there we go. All right, so there's the beginning of our cute little bear. And we can take actually before we glue his head on, let's assemble his mouth, just like we did with the bunny. Okay, so we're gonna take our little patterned layer here and glue that to, in my case, the purple layer. So let's get that going. And just match it up with his little mouth there. Make sure that you get that nice and centered. And then we'll just finish that off by attaching this or gluing this to the little black part. Okay, so let's get our glue on the back of this guy here. and get that glued to this part here. You may need to kind of rotate this to make sure you get the fit correctly. That looks good. All right, so let's grab his head. And this is actually gonna be, we're gonna add some foam squares to this to give his little mouth some dimension. I think 2 will be plenty. Okay, let's peel those off. And, oops. Again, use the little lines in the center of his head to get that aligned correctly. And there's a little chin on him here to help you with the alignment at the bottom. And that looks pretty good. Okay, and then we're gonna take this whole thing and we're also going to put some foam squares on the back of this and then foam square that to his body. Okay. So again, this will be great. This would work for a boy or a girl. When you're done putting this into a shadow box, you can throw a little throw a little caption on there with some vinyl to really personalize it. You know, you can personalize it with color. If it's a boy, you can use, you know, male colors, blues, soft pastel blues, or if it's a girl, go with the pinks or purples or whatever. Or in this, you can make it gender neutral. Doesn't really matter. That's up to you. There we go. Okay, and let's grab our sculpture here. And actually, I probably should have done this before I put this on, but go ahead and match that up nicely. And pop that down like so. And I realized that I probably should have done this before I put this down, but we are going to need to draw some eyes on him as well. Just like we did with the bunny, you want to use that center line as kind of your guide. And I'd go just slightly above the first score mark. And just kind of draw his eyes in there like that. And I may go over that with a darker pen later on and give him some eyebrows. There we go, that's cute. Okay, so our bear is done. We've got a couple flowers to put together and a bow, and this thing's ready to go into a frame. I think it's super cute the way it is already. All right, so let's take a look at our flower. So, first things first, we've got our little leaves here, and let me grab a dowel. Now, I did emboss this already, so I may have to be a little careful with my scoring, or not my scoring, but my training, because sometimes the embossing makes the paper a little frail. But I'm kind of just giving the leaves a little bit of life, so they're kind of coming up and then down like that. So I'm starting at the base here near this little circle, and I'm training it to curve it that way, and then I'll come up here and curve those petals or those leaves up a little bit. Okay, and the way that this is going to work is we're going to glue this down right about here. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that is the first part of our little flower. The second part is this section here. We're going to glue this piece to this piece to make it one piece, so that that center part, the little veins of the leaf, are purple. Okay. Whoops. So let's get that glued down. There we go. Give that a little push. And then I'm gonna actually let this set for a minute because I do want to train it a little bit, but I don't want to jump the gun just yet. And then we've got this flower here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and crease it up like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my dowel and curl the petals back. Okay, so crease it up and then curl the petals back. You can actually take it and wrap it around the dowel if you want. Like that. And that's just going to give it some nice dimension there. And then, so that is going to go, so this is going to get glued here like that. And then that's going to go on top. And then the last flower here, we're going to do the same thing with this guy. We're going to kind of just crease it up. And then I'm going to take my dowel and just curl the petals onto the dowel to kind of bring them to life. Okay, just like that. All right, so let's get these glued. And again, this piece, as I mentioned, I'm just going to take the tip of this and curl it up just to give it a little bit of life. And then maybe just train it down a little bit so it just kind of goes like, it's kind of like an S shape a little bit. Okay, so let's get our glue onto the bottom of this. Oh, this glue bottle's not being nice today. There we go. All right, so let's glue that to our leaf here. Like so. Okay. All right, and then just a little drop of glue here in the center for this piece. And I'm gonna have the petals kind of aimed, at least these petals here are gonna go towards these leaves here. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter which way you go. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Well, I kind of like it like that actually. I'm gonna go with that. Let me see how that fits. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay. And then last but not least, we've got this little flower here, just a little drop of glue. And pop that, offset it so that the petals are not competing with each other. Oops, that was messy. Just clean that off. There we go, like that. Very cute. There we go, okay. And we're gonna glue that to right about there. Okay, so we can flip this over. I'm just gonna put my glue on this little circular piece here. I think that's all we need. I'm not worried about gluing down the leaves. Just make sure that the leaves are within the boundaries of this section here so they're not sticking over. And just position that right there, give it a little press and let that set. We're gonna jazz this up with some rhinestones and some bling once we're all done. So take a look at the final photo of this to see what we did with that. And oh, you know what I just remembered? Look at that. I forgot about these pieces. Let's take a detour real quick and let's actually finish our bear, because he's got some buttons and I forgot his ears. Silly me. Okay, so we've got these little circular pieces. There's actually some circular score marks cut into his little hands there. And you just want to make sure that you get the little buttons positioned right in the center of them. Okay, grab the other one, and then you gotta put his ears on. How's he gonna hear anything if we don't give him his ears? There we go. That's cute. Okay, and his ears. Now you'll notice that there's one part of the ear that's a little flat. That's going to go right against his head. So just make sure you feel that out and do that correctly. It's so subtle that you probably wouldn't even notice it if it was incorrect, but I'm just letting you know that there is a slight difference there. Okay. So there's that. One more little earpiece. Same thing with this one. There's a little flat edge or flat side. So make sure that that is right up against his head. There we go. All right. All right, so we've got one more set of flowers to make. I guess we can do it together if you want. If not, you can just kind of skip ahead to the next section. So I'm going to flare the tips up. Yeah, you can see after I emboss this, it's wanting to crack right there. So you got to be careful with some papers, as they do have the tendency to, well, the embossing machines tend to kind of make the paper really frail. It's going to be fine because it's going to be covered up by one of the flowers, but just be careful when you do that. All right, so we're going to take this leaf and again glue it to our little purple back piece to create this portion of the leaves. Okay, I'll let that sit for a second, and we can construct our little petals here. So again, just creasing them up and then taking my dowel and just going to wrap the petals around the dowel. So I'm going to just take my dowel and wrap the petals around the dowel to kind of bring it to life a little bit. And then this guy here, again, I'm just going to curl the tip up and maybe just kind of give it a little bit of life. And let's get that glued to this piece here. Now remember, this thing's falling apart on me because of the embossing, so just be careful. And you know what, let's kind of improvise here and fix this piece so it doesn't come flying off. I'm just going to grab a piece of paper and I'm going to like splice this together. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each side, almost like we're putting a Band-Aid on it, just like that, so that it doesn't come flying off at any point after we get this thing assembled. Okay, so there we go. That's looking good. All right, so let's get our first flower in place. I'm gonna squeeze this together a little more and throw some glue onto this guy here. And get my flower nice and centered there. And grab this guy. Again, fold it up, just kind of crease it, and then take your dowel and just roll it onto the dowel like that. And just a little drop of glue. A drop of glue will do. And let's offset that. And finally, let's get this guy in place. A little bit of glue there. And again, just make sure that the leaves are within the confines of this white area here, our frame. And just get that glued down. Okay, there we go. So that is looking really cute. And last but not least, we have a little bow to put together. And that should go together quick. Hopefully, the embossing on this thing isn't going to make it as frail as those leaves. It's a different kind of paper, so hopefully it won't, but if it does, we'll have to figure that out. Okay, so there's two parts of this. Okay, one of these in the center here has a little B on it, B for bottom. Okay, so your bow, this is going to be the top, and this one's going to be angled this way, and this one's going down. So I'm going to grab my my dowel here and start training this. Oh, also, there's stitches on this as well, on this bow, that I used a pencil to stitch before I embossed it. So make sure that you do that. I mean, you don't have to, but it does look really cute. So anyway, what we want to do then, you'll notice that at the end of each of these pieces is a little tab. And in the center here, there's an area with that little B. So you can just throw a little dot of glue right in the center onto that B and bring that guy in and just match up the score lines and kind of match up the shape. You see how it kind of sits on itself and goes right on top of the other side of itself? That's kind of what you want to do to make sure that you're getting this aligned correctly. And then I'm going to throw some glue on the other half of this and bring this piece in. Just make sure that you get it aligned correctly. And just press and hold that in place for a moment while it sets. Okay. So again, that was B for bottom. So I'm going to put that at the bottom of my table so I don't forget. And then we'll grab this piece here. I'm going to train this. And you know, this paper handled the embossing much better. It's not as frail. I think this is Echo Park. I'm not sure what the other one was. But same process here. Just put some glue right in the center there. Probably overdid it. Get rid of some of that. And just line that up nicely. And give it a squeeze. And that is actually very round. This paper works great for making paper bows. All right, and then get your glue on the other half there. And bring that in. And give it a squeeze. Make sure it's nice and lined up. All right. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to glue these two sections together to form this shape. Okay. So what you can do is, and you're looking at the letter B here. You should be anyway. So I'm putting glue on the letter B, and I'm just going to match up these two interior square pieces here and just give that a squeeze. And if you need to kind of flatten the bow out a little bit because of the shadow box, that's fine. It'll still look good. Okay. All right, and then we have this little piece here that we're going to put in the center. And all you're going to do is just kind of loop that around and glue it to itself on the back. Just make sure that you have it nice and aligned. I've got a lot of stuff going on here. I've got embossing and I've got polka dots, and it is a little hard to see what I'm doing, but you know, just loop that little center piece around, give it a good squeeze, and that'll kind of finish it off. We're going to add our tail. So one more little drop of glue onto that little band that we just put on there, and get that glued in place. Make sure you have it nice and centered so that it hangs proportionately, or not proportionately, but symmetrically. And just squeeze it and hold it until it sets. And then we just need to glue that in place, and our project's pretty much done. We just need to pop it into a shadow box. Okay, so you can either pop dot this or glue it, and I would position it between the third and the fourth little cutout here on my purple piece. Okay, so just pop it right about there and call it a day. I'm gonna glue it down. I think this thing's already two-dimensional. I don't need to add another 1/4 inch to it. So let's just pop that right in place right there and just hold it until it sets. Take a look at it and make sure that it's angled nicely. And just hold that down until it's dry. And we're ready to put this thing into a shadow box. And as you can see, we've got a lot of white negative space here, so that when you do put the baby's or the child's name, it's not going to be fighting with all these colors for attention. You should be able to see it pretty nicely, actually. This is a beautiful piece. I really love this piece. So let's take a look at what it's going to look like inside our shadow box. I actually took the glass out of my shadow box because I had some vinyl on there already, and I don't want you to, oh, it's not that, I'm not trying to hide anything. It just wasn't for this project specifically, but there you go. And that's what it's going to look like. And I can already tell that I am going to have to flatten the bow out a little bit because of the glass. But either way, it's a really, really cute piece, as you can see here on camera. And I really had a blast putting this together. It's really fun. It's just a lot of paper piecing, and you really can't go wrong with a gift like this for a new baby or even a young child. I know they'd love if it was customized with their name on it. They'd love to have it in their room. It's just an adorable piece, and I really hope you enjoyed making this. If you did, take a moment to visit our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. And if you do make this project, please post your version of it in the Dreaming Tree group on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and do a search up at the top for Dreaming Tree group. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.